Hey guys, this is EffeectFTW here, and today I wanted to bring you a slightly different video and talk about some things that you should be aware of before you get into PC gaming. Now, before I begin, this video is more aimed at people who've been primarily console gamers for most of their lives, or people who are just planning to, upgrade their PCs to higher grade systems, like upgrading, from integrated graphics, that sort of stuff. So if you're already, a well-established PC gamer, this video might not be useful for you, but you could continue watching. So, just for context purposes, before I continue on with the video, I've had a very high-end computer for the past couple of years. I've had an Intel Core i7, GTX 970, plenty of RAM, and I've been able to play all the AAA games on fairly high settings for the past 3 years, so games like The Witcher 3, Batman, and all those, all those really high-end games. Now, there are 5 main factors you should be aware of before you go out and splash some cash on a gaming rig in general. So in no particular order, I'm going to list the 5, the 5 biggest factors I think you should be aware of before you get into PC gaming. And I've experienced some of these personally, and I feel like it's really important that you guys, should actually know what you're actually going into. So let's start off with number 1. Do not cheap out on the power supply. Now, this might be an odd one to pick, but it's essential, and I've actually experienced this before. So, power supplies are often confusing to newcomers to PC building, since, I'm not gonna lie, power supply shopping is one of the most confusing and just very tedious processes, because you're not sure what you actually need and actually want. So, to sum it up quickly, just for you guys, you need something with at least an 80+ bronze rating, and the way power supplies work is that you could get a rating. There is bronze, silver, gold, platinum, titanium. Now, realistically, you're only going to need bronze, silver, and gold, for higher end systems that need that sort of stuff. But if you're, going to have a, a GTX 1070 or even a 1080 to some extent, an 80+ bronze rated power supply should be fine. Now, you might be also asking, what wattage will I need? Well, now, if you don't know how much wattage your computer actually produces, there's a really good website, I'll link it in the description down below. It's a little calculator, so if you know what rig you're going to get, you could just put all the parts in there, and the power supply calculator will be able to tell you what you exactly need, which is absolutely great. Now, in terms of actually how I've experienced this before, a couple of years ago, in 2013, I think, I got my first graphics card upgrade, which was a GTX 670, and I plugged it straight into my system at the time. Now, up to this point, I was using a power supply which cost me 20 quid, and I believe it had 700 watts, and that is in PC standards, is absolutely terrible because it had no certification rating. So what happened was the moment I powered up a game, I think it was Splinter Cell Blacklist, the power supply completely exploded. Now, luckily, none of my components were actually damaged, but I've actually read stories that people have had a similar story to me, and their, motherboard has been fried and the components along with it. So I highly recommend you do not cheap out on the power supply, because it could be a massive risk to your entire system. Now, I was just lucky, but just make sure, just don't fall into the same trap I did, or you could potentially damage thousands of pounds potentially worth of hardware. Now, number 2, and this is just a little bit of just guidance, do some research about your graphics cards and your, stuff you're actually going to buy. And I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are going to buy a gaming system or graphics card, you need to actually see if it actually meets your needs. So, for example, if you want to play the latest AAA games, you're going to need a fairly powerful graphics card to actually keep up. And sorry, that was my phone. But you're going to need a really high-end graphics card to also run those, high-end games. Now, the good news is that there are companies such as Nvidia who have actually made it very clear what their graphics cards are aimed at and what they're for. So, just for a quick rundown, the GTX 1060 is a perfect high-end graphics card for 1080p gaming. The GTX 1070 is a perfect high-end graphics card for 4040p gaming. And the GTX 1080 is ideal for 4K gaming. Now, if you want to, see more about the GPU you're actually going to buy, there are millions, I mean millions of benchmark websites you can use. I forgot the name of the website, Notebookcheckreviews.com. They have an amazing benchmark thing powered by the community, so you can actually see how well your graphics card will actually perform in some games. And if you want to, check out some videos, maybe Linus Tech Tips does some great graphics card reviews and does some really good benchmarks of some really informative videos. So I highly recommend, if you're gonna, buy a GTX 1050 or a GTX 1060 or an AMD RX 480, just check YouTube, check the benchmarks, because you need to actually make sure if it actually meets your needs. And, if you want, 1080p 60 FPS or 1440p 60 FPS, so on and so forth. It's just really important that you actually get some research done. Number 3, now this is going to be a little bit complicated to explain, But not all PC games are made equal. Now, this sort of factor is more aimed at people who've never really gamed on PC, but unlike console games which are, specifically optimized for a system, developers actually have to optimize and deal with thousands of potential different rigs. There are probably millions of different rigs right now at this very second. Now, this can result in some really poor optimized games that would otherwise, run fine on the console. So the worst offenders to this factor are games such as Batman Arkham Knight and Grand Theft Auto 4. Now, both of these games have some of the worst optimization in a game, and I will have to say that games like Grand Theft Auto 4, you will never be able to run it at, a decent frame rate. It's just that bad of a game. Now, the good news is that if you're, looking to play, AAA games day one, the good news is that most AAA games, such as, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Witcher 3, those sort of games, most of them seem to run pretty well day one. Now, there has been some cases over the last year, mainly Dishonored 2, but even then, that got patched up fairly quickly. But one thing, and if you're actually really concerned about a game's optimization, what I highly recommend is check out the Steam reviews. Steam reviews is just a way, if you just scroll down to the bottom of a page of any game you're looking at, there's some really informative Steam reviews. Some of them are like really comedic and joking, just ignore those. Just see if people actually say the game is optimized or not. And likely the person who has reviewed the game will probably give their system specs, so you can actually see if their system is higher spec or lower spec than yours, and then you can actually make a choice to actually purchase the game, which is absolutely great. Number 4, be careful what you download. Now, this is more of just a general PC thing, but I think this applies to everyone who wants to take care of their gaming system, which could potentially cost over thousands of pounds. Now, if you want to stay safe from potentially dangerous software, viruses, that sort of stuff, install some antivirus and try to avoid, using potentially harmful programs. Now, I'm not going to name any programs that are harmful, but I hope you know what I'm talking about. And in terms of antivirus, I personally use Avast, which is an excellent free antivirus program, which is useful. I highly recommend. In general, I think antivirus on any computer is an absolute must. And if you're planning to mod your games and modify your games, download just loads of random mods from the internet, I highly recommend you install, an antivirus like Avast, or even just have Windows Defender activated, because that could potentially save your system. And it's a very common problem. People, who haven't installed antivirus on their computer for a year have the issue where, there's a virus and it just completely takes over their system, and they end up having to reset their entire computer. It's not a nice experience to go through, and I know people who've actually gone through that experience as well. Now, the final factor of this list is it's going to take some time getting used to. Now, there are lots of things you'll have to go through whilst transitioning from, console gaming to PC gaming, such as getting used to the graphics options and menus and troubleshooting, and also getting used to mouse and keyboard took me a while. Now, mouse and keyboard, now if I was to say if it's better than, controller, I think for most games, mouse and keyboard is better. But the problem is that, it takes so long to get used to. But if you don't want to get used to it very quickly, most games have good controller support now, so you can just, plug in an Xbox controller and play all your games with an Xbox controller if you want to. But, mouse and keyboard is still something you're going to have to get used to in some of the older titles. But if you do need any help on PC gaming, there are millions of videos on YouTube that will help you, and there's loads of great forums and communities that will, happily sort out your questions or problems that you may have with PC gaming. The PC gaming community is quite passionate about their hardware, therefore, loads of people, stick around on forums and actually help out other people, which is absolutely fantastic. And just before I finish off this video, I just want to say that being, a PC gamer is an experience not for everyone, but if you do want more control of your games, I highly recommend you go and check it out. Just go to a friend's house and just check out how they PC game or something like that. And if you're still unsure, there are tons of videos covering the whole PC versus console debate argument, but I'm not going to delve into that argument today because I feel like I can't really make an actual conclusion out of it today. But anyways, it's Speed Effect signing out. If you enjoyed the video, like the video. If you did enjoy the video, dislike the video. Speed Effect signing out.